So as you see, I've called myself Pope Michael here. Okay, and it's a bit of a funny video, this one. Okay, but basically, it carries on from my last article in which I suggested that the best way to reform the Catholic Church and still stay Catholic is to set up a new free Catholic Church that doesn't involve Opus Dei. Okay, and gradually everybody comes over step by step from the old Catholic Church to the new one. And as they leave, they try and tie Opus Dei up in knots as much as possible, and then go over to the Free Church. So eventually, you've got an original church that headed by the Pope and Opus Dei, and it's very small, it's oppressive, and it's just collapsing. Okay, so that's what I suggest happens. But and in the end, then the Pope comes over himself, and he can be the head of the new Free Catholic Church. But in the meantime, you'll need a leader. Okay, so I'm going to call myself the first caretaker founder of the Free Catholic Church, the Free Catholic Church. Okay. Now, there's only one hitch here, but it doesn't really matter. I'm not a Catholic. Okay. I'm not really bothered about churches and structures and dogmas anymore. Okay. But I do care about my Catholic brothers and sisters, especially those oppressed inside Opus Dei. Okay. So I'm willing to put myself on the line and be the new Pope. I suppose I don't mind even being called an anti-Pope, or whatever it takes to start up this new free Catholic Church that has nothing to do with Opus Dei. Not for a long, long time will it let any member of Opus Dei get near it, okay? Because we'll be able to set our own terms. And I'll tell you what, if I'm the leader of the new Free Catholic Church, the number one term will be nobody from Opus Dei will come near it, okay? We're not going to let you in for a long, 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 long time because we can't trust you and you need to reform your characters first. We need to get some fresh air, breathe some fresh air away from you guys in Opus Dei. Okay, so that'd be my number one target, and I will be a buffer between the new Free Catholic Church and the old Catholic Church that's going to be headed by the Pope and end up with just Opus Dei in it. Okay, I'll protect as best as I can the new Free Catholic Church. Okay, and you think, well, hang on a second. What about you don't believe in Catholic faith? So what about all the dogmas? What are we going to believe? Well, I think it just needs a little bit of time where there's no real consensus on that. Okay, you just use that that transition time as a time to kind of go into your hearts, decide what your conscience says, and use the full rich wealth of the Catholic Church, of Christian churches, all the way back to the beginning, to Peter and Mary Magdalene and all the other apostles and Jesus and whatever, and decide and pick out what you feel is right. It can be a good chance to review the whole thing on your own terms before you start to, you know, ratify the Council of Nicaea or whatever, in the new church. Okay, I mean, you can decide you could decide the whole thing and just like we're going to carry on exactly the same as Catholics, all the same liturgy, everything. Okay, be like Anglicans, really high Anglicans. Um, so, but we do have this issue that in the original Catholic Church, Opus Dei has tried to say, well, we can't just rely on conscience. We need to have rules. We don't have to have dogmas. We have to believe them very firmly and roll out formation and stay very true to the Catholic Church. So, and birth control's bad and all that bad. And I was like that. I was a horrible git on that. So, so what do we do? So that's why I say that, that's don't leave that for a long way down the line. Okay. Leave Opus Dei strictness in the original Catholic Church far behind and just focus on not having to agree with anybody on anything really in the new Catholic Church. Just, you know, meet and worship on your own terms, knowing that hopefully in time, one day the Pope will come over he'll think I'm fed up of just having a church with me and Opus Dei. I'm going to come over as well. Okay, so I mean there is another issue there about buildings. Okay, but buildings don't really matter because churches is about the gathering, isn't it? So all you need to do is just I mean, people have homes, don't they? So there's enough places for people to meet without having to buy any new properties. So you could say, well, what about the property legally? We're going to we're going to surrender ownership to the Opus Dei lot. They're going to be mega, mega rich. But at the end of the day, if all they've got is the churches and nobody in it, what good is that to them? You know, what good is it for a man to gain everything in the world but lose his own soul? You know, it might start to sink in one day to them. And you know, we're not talking about making people poor on the street. We're saying, well, rather than going to a church, you know, just find a place that you can use without charge, i.e., people's houses or gardens, even. Or you know, you can have a, you know, in Britain when they had the smoking ban, pubs came in. They had all these pubs started to have all these kind of tarpaulin extensions so people could smoke outside. So we're talking about something quite basic, really. So, and obviously that would be a bit of a shame, a bit of a sacrifice, all these beautiful churches, but just hold out. You hold out long enough, and you've got an old church that's just crumbling into dust. Let's face it. Well, how successful is the Catholic Church these days, especially in Europe? You know, is it really going great guns? Is this not perhaps a good strategy to lead with, to be proactive on? You know, to think, you know what, if we carry on the same way as we are, just holding on to our buildings with all their liabilities and fewer people to pay for them, where's that going to take us? You know, the church is more than about buildings. And if you pop over to the new free Catholic Church in sufficient numbers, people start to enjoy it. More people come, more people come. It's a wave. In the end, the Opus Dei crowd will be saying, we can't afford to run these buildings anymore. You know, can you have them back? You know, so maybe that's one thing to do when you, for those people who in the Catholic hierarchy, when they're leaving the old church, is to like try and get Opus Dei to take over the buildings, sign them over to Opus Dei to the prelature. Okay, they're going to think that's a great idea at the beginning. Wow, we can have more parishes, more schools, more everything. Wow, fantastic. Okay, so but they're going to realize quite soon that they're going to have nobody in them. Okay, and then they're going to say to you, like, oh, I might even have to deal with me. I might still be there as caretaker. I might have a special consultant position, you know, um, bishop at large or something like that. I don't know. And they'll have to deal with me, and I'll tell you what, that'll be pretty hard terms if they want to give us back all their liabilities. Because I think we can do something with them. Then there'll be some pretty harsh terms that I'll be applying. So just take out. I'll just encourage you to not love money too much, not love buildings too much. Just focus on the people, on the freedom. Take this step out in faith to join me, the new pope or anti-pope or whatever it is, or just maybe a better word, the caretaker founder of the new free Catholic Church, and I'll lead you. I'll lead you into freedom and away from Opus Dei, and there'll be mercy for everybody in the process. Thank you for listening.